2300 local time, the night of February 7, 2026. Somewhere in the northern districts of Chernihiv Oblast of Ukraine, under complete darkness, elite operators from the SBU's Special Operations Center Alfa give the final command. The engines of the Lyuchi drones come alive. They lift off the ground and melt into the night. They fly low, barely skimming the treetops, hugging the terrain to stay invisible to radar. The distance? Approximately 650 kilometers. The target? Redkinsky Experimental Chemical Plant in the settlement of Redkino, Tver Oblast, the only facility in Russia producing critical fuel additives for Kh-101 and Kh-55 cruise missiles, including those capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Russia suspects nothing yet. They think the night will be quiet. They are wrong. In 4 hours, that plant will be burning. Columns of thick black smoke will rise above the workshops. A chemical stench will spread for kilometers. The production of fuel for the very missiles Russia launches against Ukrainian cities every night will be on the brink of total shutdown. This is the story of Ukraine's coordinated drone fury, a midnight assault that torched Russia's important factory that fuels war machine from the inside out. This strike is no isolated hit. It's the latest escalation in Ukraine's long-range sanctions strategy ramped up since 2025. Redkinsky Experimental Chemical Plant has been blacklisted by the US and UK for years. It manufactures Desalin M and proprietary additives essential for Kh-101 fuel stability and performance. A single disruption here? It cripples Russia's ability to produce the very cruise missiles that pound Ukraine every night. Partial stoppage equals huge blow to Moscow's deep strike arsenal. A small but lethal swarm lifts off from hidden sites in northern Ukraine, likely Chernihiv region or nearby secure launch points. Leading the pack, Lyuchi-class drones, each packing 75 kilograms of high-explosive warheads. Their distinctive V-tail design and lightweight composite bodies make them ghosts on radar. Low RCS, hard to detect until very close. Navigation, a mix of inertial guidance INS, satellite correction GPS with anti-jam, and optical terrain matching. Smart enough to ignore Russian EW spoofs, frequency-hopping comms, and broadband jamming. Once jammed, onboard AI and preloaded imagery take over for fully autonomous final approach. Lyuchi strike drones bound for the deep target, Redkinsky Experimental Chemical Plant in Redkino, Tver Oblast. They hug the ground under 50 meters, blending into ground clutter, power lines, forests, and highways on the route through Bryansk, Smolensk, and finally, Tver Oblast. No distractions needed. This is a precision hit on a single high-value node. But getting there wasn't easy. Russia's layered defenses were waiting for surprises. 150 hours. The Lyuchi drones have crossed into Russian airspace undetected for nearly 2 hours, slicing through the night like shadows. Ukrainian planners, armed with satellite imagery, mapped every evasion route, dodging the dense radar nets of Bryansk and Smolensk, skimming over rivers, forests, and power lines to vanish in the ground clutter. Suddenly, faint blips flicker on Russian screens. In Tver Oblast's air defense command vans, alarms pierce the silence. Alarms pierce the silence as operators report low-altitude anomalies. An S-400 operator's voice cracks over the intercom. Batteries spin up. The massive 92N6E radars pulse wider arcs, sweeping for confirmation. At 2 o'clock, the real hunt begins. S-400 systems, Russia's vaunted long-range guardians, capable of tracking targets 400 kilometers out, struggle to paint a solid picture. The drone's low radar cross-section, thanks to those composite bodies and V-tail stealth, scatters the beams like whispers in the wind. Faint contacts only, no firm lock. Missiles elevate, 48 N6DM interceptors ready, but without a clean track, they're blind shots in the dark. Deeper in the zone, S-300V batteries, the backbone of Russia's mid-range air defense, surge into full operation. Their powerful 9S-32 engagement radars, built to simultaneously track and guide up to 12 missiles against 6 separate targets, sweep the sky with frantic pulses. Emergency lights flash inside dimly lit control vans as crews rush to stations, missile tubes elevating with mechanical precision, radar scopes lighting up with chaotic returns. Yet the Lyuchi drones remain elusive. An extremely low RCS scatters radar pulses, rendering the reflection indistinguishable from background noise. Flying at altitudes under 100 meters and speeds of just 180 kilometers per hour, they merge seamlessly with the surrounding terrain echoes. The radars struggle to distinguish real targets from harmless clutter. Contacts are intermittent, insufficient for a stable target lock. Regardless, the Russian commander issues the command to engage. In growing desperation, a salvo is launched anyway. 49M82 missiles roar out of their canisters in brilliant white-orange trails, streaking upward into the darkness like falling stars in reverse. Moments later, distant explosions bloom across the horizon, warheads detonating harmlessly on false echoes, empty sky, clusters of trees. Each of the 49M82 missiles, costing millions of dollars apiece worth of precision-guided interceptors, vanish into the night for nothing. Russia's carefully layered air defense network begins to fracture under the strain. Billions invested in radars, missiles, and electronic warfare are being exposed as vulnerable. Gaps are opening in the once solid curtain, and through those gaps, the Lyuty swarm glides forward, silent, relentless, and inevitable. 2:30 hours. Deep in a secure bunker somewhere near Kyiv, the Lyuty drone operators sit in near-total silence, faces illuminated only by the cold glow of multiple screens. Every eye is locked on the live feeds, altitude readouts, thermal signatures, navigation overlays. Tension hangs thick in the air, but their movements remain precise and controlled. They know exactly what comes next. As the drones close the final kilometers to Redkino, the first signs of resistance appear on the telemetry. Signal strength begins to degrade sharply. Packet loss spikes, latency jumps. Russian electronic warfare systems have awakened. Broadband jamming floods the bands. Targeted spoofs attempt to corrupt GPS data. High-power noise drowns command links. Krasuka 4 stations, likely positioned in the Tver defense zone, pour interference into the sky, trying to blind and disorient the incoming swarm. The operators remain calm. They anticipated this moment months ago. Preloaded combat maps, target coordinates, and final approach vectors are already embedded in the drone's onboard computers. Even if every data link is severed, the Lyuty will continue on inertial guidance and optical terrain matching. Fully autonomous, unstoppable. The AI core takes over seamlessly. Cameras scan the ground, match landmarks against stored imagery, gyros hold course with pinpoint accuracy. The jamming becomes irrelevant noise. But a new, more immediate threat emerges on the horizon. Closer to the plant, short-range air defense batteries activate. The renowned Russian Pantsir S-1 systems, designed precisely for this scenario, intercepting small, low-flying, slow-moving targets at close range. Their dual-mode radars, tracking plus engagement, light up, scanning the low-altitude corridor. The Pantsir's combination of rapid-fire 30mm autocannons and 57 E-6 missiles makes it deadly against drones. It can engage multiple threats simultaneously, chewing through swarms with explosive shells or proximity-fused warheads. "250 hours, the final minutes before impact. The tension reaches its peak. In the Kyiv bunker, the operators' screens flicker erratically. Fresh telemetry from the drones is almost gone. Russian electronic warfare has turned the sky into a wall of noise. Broadband jamming drowns command channels. Targeted spoofs scramble what little GPS remains. Data packets arrive in fragments, delayed and corrupted. The operators watch in silence as the drones fully to autonomous mode one by one. No more real-time corrections. The mission now rests entirely on preloaded maps, onboard AI, inertial gyros, and optical scene matching. The machines are on their own. Closer to Redkino, the last line of defense awakens with lethal intent. Pantsir S-1 batteries, Russia's premier short-range killer, come alive. Dual radars lock onto the low-flying signatures. Turrets slew with mechanical precision. The 30mm autocannons spin up, spitting short, vicious bursts of tracer that stitch glowing red lines across the night sky. Seconds later, 57 E-6 missiles roar off the rails in brilliant white plumes, streaking toward the incoming threats. The Lyuty swarm refuses to break. They fly low and erratic, dipping into shallow valleys, hugging tree lines, forcing the Pantsir to divide fire. Tracers rake the darkness. One drone takes a direct hit from cannon fire. Its composite body shreds apart mid-flight, fuel and warhead igniting in a bright fireball. Burning wreckage tumbles earthward in spirals, crashing into a field far short of the target. Another salvo. A missile detonates close enough to tear the wing off a second LUT. The drone spirals out of control, trailing flames, and slams into the ground in a secondary explosion. 2 down. But the swarm is small, smart, and persistent. 4 drones remain airborne, engines whining in the final dive. The Panzer crew fights desperately, autocannons hammering, missiles launching in rapid sequence. Explosions bloom in the sky, shrapnel clouds expand silently. Yet the gaps are too many, the targets too elusive. The system's engagement window is closing fast. At 2:57, the first LUT reaches the plant. It dives straight onto the central chemical processing building. 75 kilograms of high explosive detonates on impact. A blinding white-orange flash lights the entire complex. The roof collapses inward. Volatile disealant M vapors inside ignite instantly. A secondary blast rips through the structure, sending fireballs racing along pipelines in both directions. Flaming liquid sprays across adjacent tanks, igniting them in rapid succession. Thick black smoke erupts skyward, carrying the sharp, choking stench of burning chemicals for kilometers. Seconds later, the second surviving drone strikes the eastern storage cluster. Its warhead punches into a primary fuel additive tank. A massive vapor cloud explosion follows. The fireball expands violently, swallowing loading racks and rail spurs in a wall of flame. The southern section becomes an uncontrollable inferno. The third and fourth LUT hit almost simultaneously, one into a manifold junction, triggering cascading ruptures, the other into an exhaust stack area, collapsing part of the ventilation system and feeding fresh oxygen to the blaze. Multiple fire fronts merge into one roaring monster. Towering pillars of flame shoot into the sky, visible for dozens of kilometers, turning the low clouds pulsing orange and red. By dawn, the full extent of the carnage is undeniable. The Redkinsky Experimental Chemical Plant is engulfed in hellish flames, multiple ochres of fire raging unchecked across the complex. Storage tanks rupture one after another, spewing ignited chemicals in fiery arcs. The air fills with the deafening roar of secondary explosions, volatile additives cooking off in chain reactions, shaking the ground like distant thunder. Black smoke towers into the sky, visible from neighboring towns, carrying a toxic chemical stench that clings to everything for kilometers. Fire engines race to the scene, sirens blaring through the pre-dawn darkness. Teams in protective gear deploy hoses against the inferno, but the blaze is relentless. Later that morning, Russia's Ministry of Defense issues its standard report. Several Ukrainian drones were intercepted and destroyed over Tver Oblast overnight. They claim technical failures or electronic suppression neutralized the threats. But reality tells a different story. Not all were stopped. Videos from local residents and social media flood the internet, undeniable proof of the massive firestorm at the plant. The target was hit, and hit hard. Production lines for disealant M and critical fuel additives grind to a halt, costing millions in repairs and lost output. Russia's cruise missile arsenal, the Kh-101s and Kh-55s pounding Ukraine, faces immediate shortages. This is more than a tactical win for Ukraine. It's a brutal humiliation for the enemy. The deep rear, once thought impenetrable, is exposed as vulnerable. Even Moscow, just over 100 kilometers from Redkino, no longer feels like an untouchable bastion. The illusion of safety has shattered, and this is just the beginning. More strikes will come. The show must go on.